Hello everyone, my name is Tu and I live in a small village in northern Vietnam. My home is surrounded by rice fields, vegetable gardens, and quiet dirt roads. Every morning, I wake up to the sound of roosters crowing, birds singing, and the cool breeze moving gently through the trees. Many people think that living in the countryside must be peaceful and happy. In many ways, it is. But behind every peaceful place, there is often a story that no one can see. Today, I would like to share mine. I live alone in a small house that has been part of my family for many years. It is not a beautiful house, and it is certainly not a modern one. The walls are old. The roof has been repaired many times. The wooden doors make soft sounds every time I open them. The kitchen still has a traditional wood-burning stove that I use every day. Everything inside this house reminds me of the person who raised me, my grandmother. When I was very young, my parents divorced. At that age, I was too young to understand what divorce meant. I only knew that one day, my family was no longer the same. After some time, both of my parents started new families. Each of them began a different life. As for me, I stayed with my grandmother. She became the person who loved me, protected me, and raised me. She was not rich. She never had an easy life, but somehow she always found a way to make sure I never went to bed hungry. Our life was simple. We grew vegetables behind the house. We raised a few chickens and ducks. Sometimes we kept pigs when we could afford to. Every morning before sunrise, my grandmother was already outside working in the garden. Even during the hottest days of summer or the coldest mornings of winter, she never complained. She simply smiled and kept working. As a child, I followed her everywhere. I learned how to plant vegetables before I learned many other things. I learned how to feed chickens, carry water, and pull weeds from the garden. I also learned that nothing came easily. Every meal on our table was earned through hard work. When the vegetables were ready to harvest, my grandmother carefully picked the freshest ones. She washed them with clean water, tied them into small bundles, and placed them inside an old woven basket. Very early in the morning, we walked together to the local market. Sometimes we sold everything before noon. Sometimes we returned home with many vegetables that no one wanted to buy. Even then, my grandmother never became angry. She always said, "Tomorrow is another day. We will try again." Those simple words stay with me as I grew older. Looking back now, I realized that my childhood was never filled with expensive toys or beautiful clothes. Instead, it was filled with muddy fields, the smell of fresh vegetables, warm bowls of rice, and the comforting sound of my grandmother calling my name from the garden. At that time, I believed that life would always stay the same. I believed that my grandmother would always be waiting for me at home. I believed that our small house would always be filled with her gentle voice. I never imagined that one day everything would change. Life has a quiet way of teaching us that nothing lasts forever. Sometimes the people we love the most leave without giving us enough time to prepare. And when they are gone, the silence they leave behind becomes louder than any sound in the world. As the years passed, I slowly grew up. At the same time, my grandmother slowly grew older. When I was a child, I thought she was the strongest person in the world. She could carry heavy baskets of vegetables. She could work in the fields from sunrise until sunset. She could take care of both the garden and me without asking anyone for help. But time changes everyone. Little by little, I began to notice things that I had never paid attention to before. Her hands became rougher and weaker. Her back bent lower for years. Walking to the market became more difficult. Sometimes she had to stop and rest along the road before continuing. Even then, she always smiled at me and said that she was fine. I knew she was only trying to keep me from worrying. As I became older, I tried to do more of the work myself. I carried the heavy baskets. I watered the vegetables. I fed the chickens, the ducks, and the pigs. Whenever I told her to rest, she would gently shake her head. She always said, "As long as I can still move, I will keep working." Looking back now, I understand why. She was afraid that if she stopped, our small family would have nothing. She spent her entire life thinking about someone else before thinking about herself. That someone was me. Our life was never easy, but we always had each other. That alone was enough to make our little house feel warm. Then one day, everything changed. My grandmother became seriously ill. She could no longer wake up before sunrise. The garden became quieter. The house became quieter. Even the old wood-burning stove seemed colder than before. I spent as much time as I could beside her. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we simply sat together in silence. There were moments when neither of us needed words. She looked at me with the same gentle eyes that had watched me grow from a little child into a young woman. One afternoon, she held my hand and spoke very softly. She told me not to be afraid of life. She told me to continue taking care of the garden. She told me to work hard, to stay kind, and to never depend on anyone. Those were some of the last words she ever said to me. Not long after that, she quietly passed away. There were no dramatic goodbyes, no long speeches, only silence. The kind of silence that changes everything forever. After the funeral, everyone slowly returned to their own lives. Relatives went home. Neighbors came back to their daily routines. The flowers faded. The incense burned away. Then one evening, I walked back into the house. For the first time in my life, there was no one waiting for me. I stood in the doorway for a long time without moving. The house looked exactly the same. Her bed was still beside the window. Her conical hat was still hanging on the wall. Her favorite teacup was still sitting on the wooden table. Everything was still there. Everyone was gone. For many days, I could not accept the reality. Sometimes I found myself speaking out loud. "Grandmother, I am home." Then I remembered no one could answer me anymore. The hardest part was not learning how to live alone. The hardest part was learning how to live with memories. Every corner of the house reminded me of her. The vegetable garden where we worked together, the old kitchen where we shared simple meals, the worn wooden chair where she used to sit every evening after a long day of work. Nothing had changed, except the one person who made this place feel like home. There were nights when I cried quietly before going to sleep, not because I was afraid, but because I missed the only person who had ever made me feel that I truly belonged somewhere. Even today, I still believe that love does not disappear when someone leaves this world. It remains in the places they care for. It remains in the lessons they taught us. And it remains deep inside the hearts of the people they love. That is why, even though I now live alone, I never truly feel that my grandmother has left me. I carry a part of her with me every single day.